Welcome to Biography Central. You are listening to Life of Sri Ramakrishna, a complete biography. Chapter 42, Prankrishna, Adhar, Tarak of Belgharia and Vaikuntha. Prankrishna Mukherjee came of a distinguished family in the 24 Parganas and lived in Calcutta. He was in charge of Messrs. Mackenzie Lyle's exchange. Though a householder, he took a great interest in Vedanta and was a sincere devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, whom he visited as often as he could. Sri Ramakrishna loved him greatly and once, in April 1882, went to his house with his devotees and celebrated a festival there. Owing to his large body, the master would sometimes refer to him as the Fat Brahmin. On January 1st of 1883, Prankrishna came to Dakshineshwar and took his seat near the master on the floor. Rakal, Narendra and Mahendra were also present. There was a small basket of sweets at hand, from which Sri Ramakrishna took a little and remarked smiling to Prankrishna, "You see, as I take the name of the mother, I am getting all these things to eat. But she does not give paltry things, she gives immortal assets. Knowledge, love, discrimination, renunciation." Just then, a child of 6 or 7 entered the room. The master was seized with a novel feeling. Like a boy, he tried to conceal the basket of sweets and finally moved it to one side. In the act of protecting the sweets, he fell into samadhi. After a long pause, he heaved a sigh and began to talk to Prankrishna. God is not only formless, but also with form. One can see his matchless form through devotion and rapture. Mother reveals herself variously. Then, referring to the command he had received from the mother to remain in a devotional attitude instead of unity with the impersonal, he said, "At times I forget this and suffer in consequence. Disregarding this injunction, I once had my teeth broken. So unless I hear the voice from heaven or have some other realization, I will remain in a devotional attitude." What do you say to this? Prankrishna, "Right, sir, Sri Ramakrishna. And why should I refer to you either? Within this form, meaning himself, there is someone who is manipulating me in this way. Sometimes I used to have divine consciousness induced in me, and I could not rest until I worship myself. I am the instrument, and he is the operator. Formerly, I used to see divine forms with the naked eye, as I am seeing you. Now I see them in a state of trance." The master sat on his bedstead, filled with divine emotion, watching Rakal. His hair stood on end, and he fell into samadhi. A little while after he came back to his normal state, and in the course of conversation said to Prankrishna and Mahendra, "Many people talk glibly about the highest knowledge, but in their everyday lives they are satisfied with the things of the lower plane. The nearer you come to God, the more peace you will have. Peace, peace, ineffable peace. The nearer you are to the Ganges, the more you feel its coolness, and after a bath you're still more refreshed. You can't realize him if you have the least bit of attachment in you. A thread with ever so few ragged fibers won't pass through the eye of a needle." Another day, April 5th, 1884. In the course of conversation, the master spoke of his own condition. "Now, I find a change is coming over me. Long ago, Vaishnav Charan told me that when I would see God in man, I would have perfection in knowledge. Now I see it is he who moves in so many forms, sometimes as a pious man, sometimes as a hypocrite, and again as a wicked man. Hence I say, Narayana in the pious man, Narayana in the hypocrite, Narayana in the wicked and lustful." It was in the April of 1883 that Adhar Chandrasen first came to see the master at Dakshineshwar. He was a deputy magistrate. A friend of his had just lost his eldest son. Adhar, who had heard of the master and long wished to see him, brought his friend to Dakshineshwar. Sri Ramakrishna was in samadhi when they entered the room. When he came back to the normal state, he began to talk to Adhar. The latter told of his friend's bereavement. Sri Ramakrishna sang a song about the transitoriness of life and the necessity for devotion in facing death. He then consoled the bereaved father and instructed him to surrender himself to God. The master called Adhar aside and said, "You are a deputy magistrate, but that too is due to the grace of God. Don't forget him, and know one thing for certain, that everyone must pay the debt of nature. Our sojourn here is temporary. This world is the center for our activities. We come here to work out certain things, just as people come to work in Calcutta but have their homes elsewhere. You must do some work as discipline, but finish it quickly. A goldsmith in smelting gold uses his bellows, his fan, and his blowing tube to kindle the fire to the right point, so that the gold may melt easily. It is not until after it is put into the mold that he stops. There must be stern determination. Then only one can practice successfully. The name of God has tremendous power. It destroys ignorance. Always direct your mind towards God. At first you have to struggle a little. Then you will enjoy your pension. At the very first meeting, Adhar was attracted to the master. His visits to Dakshineshwar became more and more frequent. In fact, he came almost every day after business hours. The master used to visit him now and then in Calcutta, making of these visits little festivals. The mother had shown him in a trance that Adhar's house was one of his own resorts. One day, Adhar was gloomy because Sri Ramakrishna had not visited him for a long time. He fervently prayed in his heart that he might soon grace his home with his presence. The same evening, the master appeared at his house with Ramlal, M, and one or two other devotees. He passed some time listening to Ramlal's devotional songs. After partaking of light refreshments, he went on to Jadu Malik's house. Once, Adhar failed to go to Dakshineshwar for a few days. When he next made his appearance, the master asked the cause of his absence. Adhar replied that he had to attend several meetings relating to his school and other concerns. "So you forgot us altogether in attending to these things," said Sri Ramakrishna. After a brief pause, he suddenly said, "Look here, these are all unreal. Your school, your meeting, and your office are transitory things. God alone is real, and everything else is unreal. One should devote one's whole mind to calling upon him." Adhar kept silent. Sri Ramakrishna continued, "All this is unreal. This body is subject to death, which may overtake it at any moment. One must pray to God before it is too late." Adhar was penitent. After a while he said in all humility, "Sir, it is long since you have been to our house. The parlor has a musty smell about it. Everything in it seems to have lost its savor." These words touched the master deeply. He stood up suddenly and blessed Adhar and M, who was also present, touching their head and chest. Then he said with infinite tenderness in the voice, "I see you as the Lord himself. You're my own people." Shortly after, Adhar applied for the vice-chairmanship of the Calcutta municipality. He sought the help of many prominent men of Calcutta in this matter. At his request, Sri Ramakrishna himself prayed to Kali, "Mother, he is thy devotee. Let him have the post if thou so likest." But he added in the same breath, "Isn't he foolish? Instead of praying to thee for knowledge and devotion, he runs after trifles." Adhar failed to secure the post. On his next visit to Dakshineshwar, the master said to him, "Why did you go about begging those worldly people after your long acquaintance with us?" Adhar replied, "One living in the world cannot but do these things, and you did not dissuade me." Sri Ramakrishna then said, "Well, it is better to check the desire for enjoyment than to inflame it. After I got into this state, they asked me to sign and receive my pay from the cashier of the Kali temple, as everybody else did. But I said, 'That is impossible. If you like, you may give it to somebody else. I do not ask for it. I am the servant of the one Lord. Whom else shall I serve? Serve one master.' People hanker after a situation of 50 or 100 rupees, and you're drawing 300. Yours is not an ordinary post. Why not stick to it? Isn't it an annoyance to have several masters?" He went on in this strain for some time, and concluded by saying that God alone is real and everything else is unreal. The master's frequent references to death and the transitoriness of life had a deep meaning behind them, which passed unnoticed at the time. Shortly after Adhar died, as the result of a riding accident, Sri Ramakrishna had warned him about riding, but Adhar did not take these warnings seriously. His death caused great pain to the master, who wept for him bitterly before the Divine Mother. A young man named Tarak of Mukherjee from Belgharia often visited the master. Though married and living as a householder, he was a noble soul and endowed with many spiritual qualities. He lived temporarily in Calcutta, from where he used to come to Dakshineshwar in spite of the opposition of his family. Sri Ramakrishna loved him and assigned him to a very high place among his devotees. One day the master said to him, "Always be on your guard against lust and wealth. Once entangled in the meshes of lust, there is no way out for you. It is a dreadful slough. One who has fallen into it cannot get out. Come here now and then." "Tarak, my people at home won't allow me to come." A devotee. If someone's mother forbids him to come to Dakshineshwar and threatens to curse him if he disobeys, what is he to do? Sri Ramakrishna. A mother who does this is a veritable evil genius. No blame attaches to one for disobeying such a one, for she stands in the way of God realization. One may disobey one's superiors for the sake of God. Bharata did not listen to his mother Kaikeyi in his devotion for Rama. The gopis went counter to their husbands in order to meet Sri Krishna. Prahlada disobeyed his father for the sake of God. Bali disregarded his guru, Shukracharya, to please the Lord. Vibhishana set aside the words of his elder brother, Ravana, in order to realize Rama. Accepting this command to turn away from God, you must obey your mother in all things. Then the master felt the weight of Tarak's hand and said, "There is still a bit of crookedness left, but it will disappear. Pray a little to God, and come here now and then." One day, Sri Ramakrishna, while in samadhi, placed his foot on the chest of Tarak, a mark of special grace. The intrinsic greatness of the boy will be apparent from the master's following remark. As Tarak was returning home from Dakshineshwar, I noticed that something came out of this body, meaning himself, like a flame of light, and followed the boy. Vaikuntha Nath Sanyal had religious tendencies in his boyhood, but later on he became skeptical. He was fortunate, however, to meet a real teacher of the Vedanta and was referred by him to Sri Ramakrishna. At first, he hesitated about going to Dakshineshwar, but finally went with a devotee of the master. He was profoundly impressed. In the master's presence, he felt a peace and blessedness which he had never known before in his life. The more often he went to Dakshineshwar, the more he came under the divine spell of Sri Ramakrishna. One day, pointing to a picture of Sri Gauranga's Sankirtan party that hung in his room, Sri Ramakrishna said to Vaikuntha, "See, how these people are surcharged with divine emotion." Vaikuntha, "But, sir, they're all vulgar people." Sri Ramakrishna, "What do you mean? You must never say that again." Vaikuntha, "Why, sir, I am a man of Nadia, and I know that the Vaishnavas are generally recruited from the lower classes." Sri Ramakrishna, "You hail from Nadia? Then I bow to you a second time." "Well, Ram and others call this, meaning himself, an incarnation of God. What do you think?" Vaikuntha, "That is no great compliment, I should say." Sri Ramakrishna, "You surprise me. Why do you think it is not a great compliment?" Vaikuntha, "Because, sir, an incarnation is a more or less partial manifestation of God, and I look upon you as the great Shiva himself." Sri Ramakrishna, "Well?" Vaikuntha, "Yes, I think so. I cannot help it. You asked me to meditate on Shiva, but in spite of repeated attempts, I cannot do so. Whenever I sit down to meditate, your smiling face comes before me, and I cannot replace it, nor do I feel inclined to do so with that of Shiva. Therefore, I think of you as Shiva." Sri Ramakrishna, smiling, "You astonish me, but I know that I am not equal even to a tiny hair of your body. Well, I have been very anxious about you, but today I am satisfied." It was the boy's acceptance of him as the highest spiritual ideal that set the master at rest. This was a common way with him of ascertaining a disciple's religious outlook. I hope you like this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.